Want to welcome everybody to today's session. We're going to be talking about drilling and filtering in the Stratum interface. So we'll be focusing in on how to use drilling, the drilling features, and some of the filtering options. You can see here that we'll talk about some of the drilling basics. We'll go into some totaling and subtotal options for each level that you drill on. We'll look at how to drill to another view. And then for the filtering, we'll talk about how to filter on a dimension and attribute. Also filtering on measures, how to use the view filter, and then we'll take a look at the filter manager. And then we'll take any questions you might have. If you have any questions after the session, feel free to email me. Today we'll be talking about, this is the Stratum Data Hub. And here we can see that we'll be talking about the web-based portion. So we'll be focusing in on the Stratum Analytics side of the Data Hub today. That's my name and my contact. So if you do want to reach me, feel free to reference this after the session and give me a call or send me an email. So let's talk about drilling. Essentially, the first thing we want to do is let's run a view. And to run a view, we all know how to do that. So let's go ahead and run the view. And um, we all know how to basically do. I mean, if you're new to Stratum, you may not know, but those of us that have been using the interface for a while, certainly we know how to do the drilling. Here we have, a view with some levels in it, product brand, region, customer sold to. So this is the navigational pane. So I can certainly reorder some things here if I want to. But I can drill within this area here, or I can drill down here by selecting a product brand. For instance, Tip Top, if I wanted to click in on Tip Top, it then takes me to that regional level. So I just performed a drill down. So we drilled further down into the detail. I can do that again for a given region. If I click in on East, it'll then show me all the Tip Top East customers. And we can see that, just by looking at our trail behind us, we can see certainly that this data represents Tip Top and the East region. So drilling forward, as you can see, pretty easy. If I want to maybe pick another region to see how East region is doing, I can click back on that East number, and then it takes me back to that regional level. And I can click in on the West. So I just did like a drill back, if you will, and then I clicked in on the West. So I can do that. I can always go back and click in on a given region. I can also click in on the header area as well, where it says region. And then it actually drills in on both the East and the West regions, which makes it more of a subtotal report, as we can see. So here we can control the totaling if we wanted to. Maybe if you don't want the subtotal for some reason, you can always turn that off. If I open up my View Explorer, I can then kind of manage the different levels that are within the view. For instance, for customer sold to or for region, any level that I go in and I can right click and select properties for that region, and then it will allow me to filter or to manage some of the different features that are available here, such as the totaling. So if I want to turn totals off, it'll then get rid of the totals for the regional, why I do that for the regional level. But the totals are still turned on. As you can see, if I just looked at region by itself, as you can see, the totals go away. If I drill to it, for instance, if I move it back to where it was, the totals come back because the totals, obviously I haven't drilled the region yet. Plus the totals are still turned on for product brand. So even though they're turned off for East region, product brand still has them turned on. If I wanted to turn the totals off for product brand, I could do that here. And then I can turn that off and then they go away for both levels because they're turned off now for both levels. So you get rid of the subtotal that way, obviously, and then you also get rid of the grand total. Now, if I drill down further, given that customer sold to totals are still on, the totals will then come back. If I drill in on both, my subtotal is still there, again, because the sold to level still has totals on. So you're going to get the subtotals will come back. And again, I could play the same game down here for customer. I can turn that off as well for totaling. And then now that gets rid of my totals as well. Why would you do that? Maybe you're building a file to download to Excel. Maybe you want something that's more friendly for pivot tables. So you don't really care to incorporate the totals. Would be a good reason to do some of this. Okay. So that's basically how you control the total for each level. As you can see, they are managed by each level that you have within the view. And then you can turn totals on and off for everything or just for some. Basically it's up to you in terms of how you want to design your totals. Um, just going to rerun the view, just going back to square one. So again, the drill down, we just did a drill down. We also drilled on the header so we know how to drill using some of that, some of those capabilities as well. Another thing I can do is I can drag and drop things up to the view filter. And it's almost the same thing as a drill down. For instance, if I drag tip top up here to the view filter, it'll then bring up the product brand level to the view filter and apply that filter on the fly. It's it's both a filter and a drill down essentially. Basically I dragged and dropped tip top up. It then drilled me down to the region because that was the next level down. And then the product brand is not visible currently in the data grid because we took it up to the view filter. So now any other drill downs that we perform here are going to be strictly product brand tip top, given that they're the filter up there in the view filter. And I could do the same thing. I could just keep going if I wanted to put the East region up there as well. It's a good way to buy more real estate on your data grid. And that way you can kind of put commonly filtered items up here in your view filter. So again, dragging and dropping entities up into the view filter is another way, essentially, another way to drill down. It also buys you space on commonly filtered dimensions. Now, if I were to save this, as is, yes, obviously that will save those filters as well. If I want to bring them back into the data grid, I can drag and drop them back down and bring them back in if I wanted to. The filters are still applied. I can go in and clear those out as needed. So that's drilling on levels. And if we look at the columns, we also see there's some capability to click in on some of these numbers as well. And so what would happen if I were to click in on some of these? We can see that it'll take me to a monthly trend view. So for tip top, for that 7.4 million, if I click in on that, it then takes me to another view where I can then see the trend for that 7.4 million for tip top. So the drill to view, as you can see, pretty powerful. It'll pass over that product brand filter that you click in on, and then it'll take you to another view. I like this example because the first view really doesn't show me month by month. It just shows me January through September as a sum. So I don't really get a feel for how January sales were or February or March, for each month of the year. So it's a great way to jump the user to another view without them having to figure out, what view it is or what filters to apply. It automatically does that for them. For instance, if I were to do that for Dewdrop 7.2 million, I can click in on that particular number and it'll then send over the Dewdrop filter. And then it'll show me that 7.2 million. So I think this is one of our more slick ways. Here's one for 11 million. We got one for 85 Farm Fresh. How does that break out by month? So it's a great way to do that. And then the other column over here has some drillable items as well. This is my current month sales, and current month is September for the demo. So we're right in the middle of our current month for September of 24. And as I could see, if I compare that to last year's September, we can see that we're down a bit. So I guess some of my first questions are, where are we in terms of open orders for Tip Top? If I were to click in on that number, it'll then show me for Tip Top all the open orders for the customers out there and the amounts. So I can get a feel for what's shipping, what's past due, and then what's scheduled to ship in the next few weeks. Again, without having the user doesn't have to think about where to go or what to apply. This is a great way to just kind of guide them into another view and answer some of their questions, without them having to think too much about it. I can do the same thing here for Farm Fresh. If I want to click in on that 8.8 million of open order, or that's my current month sales, and then I can see there's roughly 800,000 in open orders for the next few weeks and prior weeks, so past due orders as well for that brand. So that's drill to view, and as you can see, you can assign it at the column level. So each measure here, if you wanted, you could jump the user to a different view for each column. So powerful feature, probably more underused than it should be, but I really do, feel strongly about this feature. I think it's a great one. Okay. Let's talk about filtering. We did a little bit of filtering by using the view filter, but filtering is a big thing within the product. It's a great way to, just filter on items that you care about. If I'm a brand manager, maybe I just want to see the brands that I manage. So how would we apply a filter to this view so that I can only show the brands that I care about? Well, the first way to do that would be to come over to the product brand itself, the level, and if I right click on it, I can enter a filter option there, and I can select edit, and I can select, which ones I want to filter on. So maybe I'm in charge of these 3 brands. So I, very easily and quickly select those brands, and I click OK, and my filter is done. I've just applied a filter, and so if I were to save this view, it will then only just show me those product brands from here on out. We notice a couple of things there. We have a couple of bright filter icons, one down here by the product brand telling us that indeed the filtered these are filtered with members, Farm Fresh, First Choice, and Home Cooking. Up here is my filter manager. So if I were to click in on that, I can manage all the filters within the view, not just this particular one, but everything. And I can get a good feel for other filters that are buried within the view, have not yet been applied. And I don't see any. So we were able to just apply that one, and I could see that here, and I can manage it if I wanted to. Another nifty thing I can do within the filter manager is exclude those brands. So maybe I manage more filters than not, and maybe I just want to exclude the 3 brands that I don't manage. So I can toggle that over to exclude, and now I'm actually excluding those 3 brands and just working with the brands that I want to work with by exclusion. So that was a new feature that just got applied a couple of versions ago. And so if you're behind a little bit on versioning, you won't have access to that powerful feature. And it's been pretty popular. A lot of our customers have had a lot of positive feedback about the ability to exclude those particular items. If I toggle it back to include, well, as we can see, it's we're back to square one in terms of the filter that we initially applied. So that is your manage all filters menu. If I wanted to get rid of the filter, I can do that. I can apply a new filter anywhere now at any level by within this menu, which I like a lot. Another nice thing I can do is go over here and manage my filters on my data levels and apply those here as well. So let's do that. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and clear out this filter. And instead of doing a filter on a product brand, we're going to do a filter on the measure name. So for instance, if I just want to see my actual sales over a certain amount, then I can come over here and right click on any column that I want to filter on. And this is my 3-month rolling sales column. And I can filter on that. If I want to do a filter edit on that column header, I see a different menu, right? I get a different looking menu because I'm filtering now on a measure as opposed to a dimension. Before we were filtering on product brand and we were selecting our product brands. We're not doing that any longer. We're now saying I want to see sales over a given amount for that column. So how would we do that? Well, if I click on my operator, I can see that I can select a greater than operator, and then I can give my amount. For instance, maybe I want to see just the brands that are selling over 1.5 million for the rolling 3 months. So I would just need to type that figure in and the greater to operator, and then I click OK, and it then filters out everything that is greater or less than, I should say, 1.5 million. Here we can see that if I hover over that filter, it gives me the condition in which I just applied. Let's make that a 2 million actually, so we can filter out more. And indeed, so now we've seen that the rows have dwindled down a little bit. So just showing me now I'm just showing the product brands that are making money for those rolling 3 months, anything over 2 million. So that's one way to filter on a column. And as you can see, you can do all kinds of things, not equal to, greater than, less than, equal to, all kinds of things there. Another cool thing to mess around with here is the counting feature, or the top count. For instance, if I want to see the top 5 or maybe the top 3 brands, I can go ahead and select top 3. So now, as you can see, it's just showing me based on the sales figures for that column, the top 3 brands that are coming in for sales. Now, if I open my View Explorer, I can do a couple of things here as well. I can turn on my totals for my rows and my all others default. For instance, maybe if I want to see all other sale, a row for all others as well, I can go ahead and apply that here for my rows. And I should get our all other break there. Oh, there it is. So turning that on, it's also controlled by each level. So you can turn it on and off by each level. Okay, so that's a top 3 product brand. And then I'm showing that there's 31.3 million for the other brands. Now, what happens when I drill, for instance, to customer from product brand Farm Fresh? Well, that filter still gets applied. So that's, again, it's still applying that top 3 count. I see the top 3 accounts for Farm Fresh, right? My all others row went away. And if I open up customer sold to, and I can turn that on at sold to as well. And there it is. So now I've got a neat little drill down, top 3 brands, top 3 sold tos for that Farm Fresh brand. So again, as you drill down, the filter still gets applied. Okay. So you got top percent. Maybe I want to see the top 20% of sales. I can then, and Farm Fresh is clearly dominating that. What happens if we put 40% in there? And we can see it adds another brand. So these guys are dominating my business in terms of, they're 40% of my business. Let's put it in 60%. So these are 60% of my business right here, of my revenue. at least for these months, right? So they're fun games to play and questions that you can lob at it, and it will answer your questions based on what the different filters that you define here. Lots of fun to be had here. Other things that you can do here is a bottom count as well. So if you want to look at some of the bottom feeders, not only the top ones, but certainly you can highlight and see the bottom two brands, and we can see the small numbers that are applied to these, right? So um, recursive means that it'll maintain the top three. For instance, if I wanted to do a top three for brand, so it applies that, and then if I click in on those three, it'll then retain the top three, and then it will then show me the top three for customer sold to. Very powerful. This is a great view, I think, just showing me top three brands and top three customers for those brands. Top three by top three. Lots of different variations that you can play around with in terms of filtering on the data level. And yes, as we can see, the filter manager is illuminated where we can go into the data tab and we can see that indeed there's my filter for that column that we just applied. And I can manage it here just like I did with the other filter on the dimensions. If I want to change it or delete it, and I can clear it out from here. Okay. So filtering on the um, level, filtering on the dimension, as we can see, we can apply filters so that we can really kind of focus in on what we want to. Just looking at the filter on the level a little bit further in further detail, there's other things that I can do here to make it easier. For instance, I can search for things. Um, Maybe I want to search for dewdrop. I can type in a word, and it will then go out and find it for me and select it for me. So it's a great way to go out and find things that you're looking for. Another thing I can do is change what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm looking for something based on a brand manager. So I can certainly change this to find things based on the different attributes that are available for that level. I can even change the operator as well. So the search menu, this search engine is pretty powerful in terms of finding things that you want to, search for. Another thing down here on the more uh, button is I can do a couple things. I can change the filter type. Right now we're selecting members of that level. All my different brands technically they're called members of a hierarchy. Well, if I change the filter type to other member or filter options, I can then select maybe a member list, um, which is what we're doing now. So, that's obviously not changing anything. I can change it to a user list. So maybe I have a user list that I want to use. A user list is a list that users can put together on their own. Looks like I don't have one for product brand. Let's try one for customer sold too. Change the filter type to user list. And we can see that we do have a couple of user lists here. We've got a user list called East Customers. So if I were to apply that here, then it would just show me the East customers that are part of that user list. And as I hover over that filter, it then shows me that indeed it's just showing me the user list now, called East Customers. So again, if you want to change your filter type, you can do that on the fly at any given moment. Name set, you can also use the name set, and that's strictly just for time dimensions. You can also write an expression. It gets a little more technical, but you can really get more custom. You can write in customized expressions as well if you wanted to. We won't get into that today. Okay, so that's basically filtering on the levels, also being able to look for those, how do I search for things? How do I change the filter type? And then if I'm strictly just doing a member list filter, how do I search for things that I'm want to filter on? Here we can see we've got a bunch of customers. Now that we're filtering on customer, we got a lot of other attributes that we can filter on. Maybe I want just the customers that might be in a given state. Maybe it's just my Illinois customers. So then it's a great, easy way to find that, right? And apply that filter. And this is just my Illinois customers. So again, being able to filter, apply filter, change it, change the filter type, and also be able to, search for things that you're looking to filter on. Very easy to do once you obviously know how to do some of that. It's pretty easy to manipulate. And again, as you save this, it will certainly save your filters as well.